The Denver Broncos name Bo Nix, rookie quarterback, their starter to start the 2024 season. What are the pitfalls in Denver and for the rest of the teams to avoid in the AFC West on today's Peacock and Williamson?
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We appreciate all of our everydayers out there that are with us Monday through Friday. And, of course, we love it when you hit that subscribe button. And even some of the everydayers aren't subscribed. I see you out there, and I got the numbers. So hit that subscribe button so you know when a new episode is live on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, we got Brugler's top 50 for the 2025 NFL Draft, AFC West pitfalls as well on today's episode. But a few notes here on the preseason as we enter preseason game number 3. Friday and through the weekend and get ready for the regular season. And we'll probably start and finish this episode with the Denver Broncos in the AFC West. Bo Nix officially named, as we expected, Matt, the starter in his rookie season. I guess that's why you draft an older prospect, a 24-year-old quarterback who has started more games than any quarterback in college football history. So he's ready to go as a rookie.
Yeah, handpicked by Sean Payton, who knows a thing about quarterbacks and what he's after. And as you said, mature, experienced. I think he had a good preseason, only 2 games, but I thought he did quite well. So be kind of an upset if he wasn't. I mean, considering the state of this team, their pitfalls aren't going to be hard to find, to be very honest. Spoiler alert, that this is the right direction to go.
The next Drew Brees, as he's being called in some circles, Matt.
Yeah, it's a little lofty.
A little much right now?
A little much.
They look like that style of offense, though, like we've seen.
Oh, I think he fits what they do. Yeah.
In the preseason. So I was impressed. I enjoyed what I saw from Bo Nix. And
no doubt.
The ultimate ceiling is for Bo Nix, starting as a rookie for Sean Payton in the Denver Broncos. Another young quarterback that will be starting this week, finally, in a preseason game is Bryce Young. It's been reported now that Bryce Young will actually play. We've kind of crushed the Carolina Panthers for not putting the starters out there. They will play in week 3. Bryce Young's going to be out there to get ready for his second season in the NFL.
Yeah, and again, I don't know why he didn't do this earlier, but I think every snap you can get a guy like him is very, very important. So do it up, Good.
I want to talk about Achilles injuries, Achilles tendon for a second, because another report is that Aaron Rodgers, coming off a torn Achilles, will not play in the final preseason game for the New York Jets. That's not too much of a surprise at all. Another guy we haven't seen is Kirk Cousins. And there's a little bit of a conspiracy out there, Matt, that Kirk Cousins and his Achilles injury that happened later, much later than Aaron Rodgers' Achilles injury. Aaron Rodgers happened on the 4th play of the season last year, right? He might actually not be ready for the regular season. And the Atlanta Falcons don't really want to tell people that, and that's why they haven't played Michael Penix in the preseason as much, because they don't want to get him hurt too, because he might have to start for the Atlanta Falcons in week 1. Do you buy that conspiracy theory right now for the Atlanta Falcons, Matt?
Well, I actually threw that out on Steeler Nation Radio because that's the Steelers' first opponent. They go to Atlanta in week 1, and I found it very odd that Penix wouldn't play in week 2 of the preseason. We've seen enough. And then I liked what you said about the subject, that this group did come from the Rams, and nobody cares less about the preseason than the Rams. But still, I mean, it's a first-round quarterback, and even if he's as mature as Bo Nix and is an overage guy like that, doesn't he need as many snaps as he can get? And I said the same thing. I'm like, do we know Cousins is starting against the Steelers in week 1? Do we know that? I don't know that.
We don't know that. So we cannot debunk that conspiracy right now, Matt.
Right.
And maybe, who knows?
A little fishy.
might have some legs. We'll see. We'll see. And probably those practice reports for Kirk Cousins in the final week here leading up, and maybe we'll know a little bit more about it. But, he's not been involved in any contact stuff. So we'll see. Is he ready to be hit by week 1 for Kirk Cousins? If not, we might see the rookie out there, Michael Penix, for the Atlanta Falcons against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And the other one I heard is it Case Keenum's the third guy? Somebody's been around the block. I think it's Keenum or somebody very similar.
Yeah.
Maybe they're showcasing him for a trade. I'm like, yeah, maybe, but.
Okay. Yeah. I do like that. There's a lot of showcasing, a lot of trade potential. And by the way, we recorded the Friday podcast today a day early. So if something huge popped with if Brandon Ayuk's currently a Steeler and you're wondering why the heck aren't these guys talking about it, you're going to have to wait till next time because due to scheduling, we had to record Friday's pod a day early on Thursday.
Yep.
There's top 50 is out as the college football season gets going this week. There's a couple of games, and then next week it's real week 1 for college football. So we're seeing an influx of college football stories, including Dane Brugler from The Athletic, one of the best draft analysts out there, has his preseason top 50 prospects for the 2025 NFL draft. And I don't get a chance to watch a lot of Saturday football because I watch so much Sunday football and then do football work during the week. Due to my my life and my family, Saturdays aren't the day that I can spend watching a whole bunch of football. So I have to play catch up with prospects during the off season. So it's good for me to see lists like this, Matt, because it gives me something to watch when I do have an opportunity to watch football during the fall and college football, which players to watch, who could impact high in the 2025 NFL draft. So let's start running through some of the top 50 and the immediate takeaways on what this next draft class might look like, Matt. And let me start real quick. I'm just going to read through the top 10.
Yeah.
It starts with a couple of Michigan guys actually near the top. We've got Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan, 6'2", 200 pounds, a junior in 2024. Abdul Carter, another underclassman, which is going to be, a theme for the top guys as it is in every draft. Abdul Carter, Penn State edge rusher, 6'3", 260 pounds. And another year, another stud Penn State edge rusher. I don't know how they do it, but they continue to do it. Wearing number 11 there, a familiar number off the edge for the Penn State Nittany Lions. We got Travis Hunter, cornerback and wide receiver at Colorado, 6 feet tall, 181 pounds, most likely a corner in the NFL for Deion Sanders' Colorado Buffaloes. Mason Graham, the second Michigan Wolverine to show up in the top 4, is number 4, defensive tackle, 6'3", 320-pound junior, Mason Graham out of Michigan. You got James Pierce, a really thin edge rusher out of Tennessee, 6'4", 245 pounds is what he's listed here. Wearing number 27, looks like a defensive back. So obviously that's going to be the big thing for him. Athletic edge rusher, is he big enough? Does he fit for all teams? So something to watch for James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. Couple of wide receivers. You got Tet McMillan, T-Mac from Arizona, to the prototype 6'5", 210, ridiculously athletic wide receiver out of Arizona. And one of my favorites that I did watch last year was Luther Burden. And I was actually upset when I realized he wasn't eligible for the NFL draft in 2024. He'll be in the 2025 class, a junior, 5'11", 210 pounds, just a baller out of Missouri is Luther Burden the second. And if you'll notice, Matt, I guess we could pause right here because we have not mentioned a certain position, quarterback, yet. In the top 10, a whole bunch of defensive players, no quarterback yet. Now we finally have one at Carson Beck at number 8 overall on Brugler's top 50. Quarterback out of Georgia, 6'4", 218 pounds, probably a very familiar name, and actually the first senior, if I'm not mistaken, on this list, Carson Beck. Then you got Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia, back-to-back Georgia prospects, 6'1", 205 at number 9, and Will Campbell, offensive tackle from LSU, 6'6", 319. That is your top 10. Only one quarterback in the top 10, Matt.
Yeah, and he does list several others in his top 50, and I don't think this is going to be the Kenny Pickett, Patrick Willis type of class where you're reaching to find guys. I think it'll get better, and we got a whole year to go on some of these talented dudes, but certainly not like last year, and that's maybe one of the reasons that 6 went in the top 12. And speaking of that, this most recent draft was not only very quarterback heavy early, but very, very offensive heavy, tons of tackles. And this looks like a much more defensive draft. And I do this every year, BP. I try to get ahead. Every year I tell myself I'm getting ahead in draft prep. I'm learning these guys. And then when the season rolls around, I don't watch them on Saturday either, and they fade away, and then I pick them back up. But from what I've seen, it looks like an awesome running back draft. As usual, a good receiver draft. Looks like a lot of potential tackles that could go high. And across the board pretty much on defense, but especially defensive tackle.
2024 draft set a record for how late the first defensive player came off the board. That's not going to happen in 2025. Probably amongst the first 1, 2, 3 picks, you're going to see a defensive player flying off the board. About those quarterbacks, who are the rest of the quarterbacks on Dane Brugler's top 50 to watch in the 2025 season? And AFC West Pitfalls next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. What are your self-care non-negotiables? I know I have some. Maybe you never skip leg day, but how about never skipping therapy day when your schedule is packed? You got kids, activities, big work projects, and so much more. I always talk about how there's a little computer in our pockets now. That never happened before, but now you're being bothered and kept from things all day, every day, with minor annoyances by this thing buzzing around in your pocket and keeping you potentially from what makes you happy, what you've set out to be your goal for the day. It's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your specific schedule. All you do is you fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched to a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon. Today, get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, so Carson Beck is the only quarterback in the top 10 of Dane Brugler's top 50, but there are other quarterbacks here, a bunch of corners, bunch of edge guys, bunch of offensive tackles. So Carson Beck is QB1 to start the season. Who might be competing with him for the right to be the first quarterback drafted? Who knows, maybe the number 1 pick in the 2025 NFL draft. None other than Deion Sanders' kid, Shedeur Sanders. He might not be for everyone. There's a lot of vibes, a lot of stories out of Colorado. 6'1", 198 pounds. Feel like his stock isn't as high as it once looked like it was. Like maybe I think last year at this time, you might have thought, he's probably the favorite to go number 1 overall. Doesn't feel like the case coming into this year. And so we'll see what Colorado's able to do here in is this year 3 for Deion in Colorado?
I think so. It sounds right. Yeah.
We've got.
He doesn't run like Daddy. I mean, like he's a good athlete, but he's not insane like Deion.
He's a good athlete for a quarterback. He's not the best athlete of all time, like his dad.
Right, exactly, yeah.
We got Quinn Ewers, University of Texas at 23. Matt, he's one of the players I watched a lot because I was watching the wide receivers at Texas before last year's draft in Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell. I thought Quinn Ewers was awful. Like, I'm surprised he's in the top.
Pretty bad too.
He did not look like a guy I thought, this guy's going to be a first-round pick next year. That was my thought and I wasn't just specifically scouting him, but it was to the point where I was mad at the receiver, the guy who was throwing these receivers the ball as I was watching them. So
I didn't love the system either, or the quarterback watching those guys.
Yeah, maybe it was a system thing. I don't know. He's been highly thought of for a long time. Quinn Ewers, 6'2",
he was the recruit when he went to Ohio State. So like expectations have been through the roof on this guy.
Right. And so that's what happens too in the draft process is you see, you're going to see Arch Manning on these lists. And it's like, well, he hasn't done anything yet, but the expectations are there. So I think that's kind of what it is for Quinn Ewers. Big year for him because based on what I saw last year,
long way to go, in my opinion. Yeah. Again, I haven't studied these guys either, but actually this next name's the one that I'm kind of just doing research on is the one I could see being at the top of the board when it's all said and done.
Redshirt sophomore, Connor Wegman out of Texas A&M, 6'3", 215. You're intrigued, Matt.
I am intrigued. I see a lot of just natural ability, things that the league are looking for here, playmaking skills, arm, all the stuff that people want in today's quarterback. So he's my, I don't know, it's not a dark horse, but he's my putting a chip down for biggest riser, maybe the guy that can get in that top 5 overall category.
The guy that you're like, look, this guy might be a second round player as the season starts and you start to get into January, February and like, no, this guy's going to go in the top 10.
Mm-hmm. Then he goes to Senior Bowl and lights it up, and you know how the process goes. And then before you know it, he's a second pick in the draft, or
And by the way, if it wasn't enough for Michigan to have Mason Graham, 320-pound defensive tackle, at number 4 on the list, how about at number 30 on the list, a 340-pound defensive tackle for Michigan, Kenneth Grant, 6'3", 340, coming in at number 30. So 2 top 50 prospects on the interior of that Michigan defensive line.
So the national champs are loaded again. However, their biggest rival, Ohio State, is at least rumored to break the most drafted guys ever in a class. I mean, so Ohio State has a lot of dudes too.
A ton of corners on this.
A lot of corners, yeah. They all have size too.
Yeah, the return of the corners. We have so many great draft classes with wide receivers. Maybe we get a class that'll help cover those guys in the future of the NFL.
Yeah. There's a lot of corners on this list.
Let's see, how many quarterbacks is that? That's 4 so far.
That is 4, and then
one more.
The last one from Ohio State on the list is Drew Aller. He's another guy I've watched a fair amount. Being Penn State's always on here.
Yeah.
He has a lot of work to do too. I mean, he's big and strong, but he has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, Drew Aller. He is the 50 out of 50 on Brugler's top 50 prospects for the 2025 draft before the season starts. 6'4", 230 out of Penn State junior. And if you want to see the whole list, go check out The Athletic and all of Dane Brugler's fantastic work. He's one of my favorite guys there. There's a cursory look at the top 50, Matt, and a lot better defensive players, a lot of corners, a lot of tackles, a lot of D linemen, and some quarterbacks in there as well. How about the AFC West?
Yeah. Been racking my brain how to talk about the Chiefs here.
We'll get to the Chiefs. Let's go to the Denver Broncos. We started this podcast with the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix, rookie quarterback, is starting. That's the pitfall. You're starting a rookie quarterback. Usually that doesn't end well for teams in the win-loss column. And then all of a sudden you've got a lot of losses piling up in multiple seasons for your head coach. And that's when seats start to get warm and hot. So that's kind of the pitfall for me. Don't let this thing get away from you, Sean Payton.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like these young receivers, Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, are making any kind of impact at all. I mean, but they do have, Josh Reynolds and Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton, and they don't have much at tight end. I'm just thinking about his supporting cast. I mean, the pitfall isn't, are they going to get to the playoffs or not? To me, the pitfall is, can they develop a quarterback? And I like the coach doing it, but he's not throwing to superstars. And besides Pat Surtain, I don't see a lot on this defense either. They have some pieces I like, but this is another one that needs maybe 5 new starters next year or something like that. It's
definitely a team that's light on stars.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the young receivers because they're probably going to roll out the vets. Cortland Sutton, Josh Reynolds will be the starters. Tim Patrick came back from injury, but the guy that was running ahead of the 4th rounder, Troy Franklin, and ahead of Marvin Mims in some cases, and Mims is going to be more of a return guy. He looks like he's kind of overdrafted as a 2nd rounder, I think, in 2023, more of a sort of a gadgety extra player on offense, hot guy. But Devon Vele, who I didn't know a lot about, had a great 7th round rookie this year.
I need to learn that name.
Like he might have been ahead of all those guys, although I think he did get nicked up recently. So might be a name to watch. Yeah, lack of talent.
Yeah, I mean, they're just not very good. I mean, they're kind of in the pit. They're just trying to dig out of the pit.
A rookie quarterback. But could this be we thought this, I guess we're going to have to use this, and we'll say it about every rookie quarterback and every team that we think is not good enough every year, because we said almost identical things about CJ Stroud's last year. So it was Bo Nix, CJ Stroud this year.
Yep. I mean, again, if we did pitfalls for Houston 1 year ago, it'd be, well, hopefully they don't ruin the quarterback. They get to 6 wins and start to build something. And, teams are allowed to do better than that,
Fantasy football nugget here for the Denver Broncos. I know there's injuries have derailed what we hoped and thought Javonte Williams would be.
Yeah, I'm interested.
He's still the number 1. Audric Estime, you're always like, okay, you've got a kind of an injury-prone veteran running back. Ooh, 5th round rookie, Audric Estime. He might be someone that you want to stash and look out for in your fantasy leagues. But the guy to watch is Jaleel McLaughlin, I think. He played phenomenal last year. Reports are great out of camp. He might be the guy for the Denver Broncos that you can get late in your fantasy drafts.
Yeah, I'm certainly intrigued with that backfield. as is often the case with Sean Payton going back to Kamara, they led the NFL last year in running back receptions. And you know how valuable that is. Even if Williams and McLaughlin split it, that's still a lot of passes to running backs to go around.
Yeah. PPR league, you're going to want the guy who's in on third downs for the Denver Broncos offense.
I would think. And they're probably going to be losing a lot late in games, and that could be McLaughlin time too, you know.
Next, pitfalls in the AFC West. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs, Las Vegas Raiders, and Los Angeles Chargers. Today's episode of Peacock Williamson brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to make sure you find the right professionals, quality professionals that are perfect for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And too bad it wasn't this easy for NFL teams to find the right professionals for their teams. LinkedIn isn't just a regular old job board either. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role because they're on LinkedIn, but they're not looking at other job sites. Over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. And LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, might not have the time or resources to hire. So LinkedIn is constantly finding new ways to make the process easier and adding tons of features. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Kansas City Chiefs. I'll tell you what the pitfall is for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, help me out here.
Nobody three-peats. Doesn't happen, Matt.
True.
Whether it's a Roger Craig fumble in 1990 that allows the Giants to go win the Super Bowl instead of the 49ers famed three-peat that they were touting as they were winning their back-to-back Super Bowl. They're like, let's go for three while they're on the sideline of winning their second Super Bowl. It's not that easy in the NFL. It doesn't happen. Are the Chiefs the team to do it? I'm sure there was some Steelers teams of the past. You thought, okay, this is the team. You're gonna roll through three in a row. Doesn't happen.
A lot of people think the 76 team after the first two Super Bowls was their best. It was definitely their best defense. And then the playoffs, they lost Bradshaw, Franco, and Rocky. Like everyone that touches the ball was hurt for the Raiders game, and they lost like 9-3 or something. It was just something crazy like that. You know,
it can't go well 3 seasons in a row in the NFL.
Something bad's going to happen. Like the quarterback's going to get hurt in the playoffs. You know, that type of thing. You're right.
You can go undefeated in the regular season and lose in the Super Bowl to a guy who catches the ball off his helmet. You know what I mean? Like it's something weird is going to happen for the Chiefs this year, right? It has to.
Taylor Swift could screw it up.
She'll get blamed, although they kind of got over that hump because that should have hit them last year, but maybe it'll be the breakup this year that gets them. So it'll not be because of Taylor Swift. It'll be because they lost Taylor Swift. So maybe that's
I like the sound of that. Okay. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the Chiefs because they're really good, and I don't see a lot of pitfalls. I mean, their offensive tackles aren't phenomenal, but I mean, in fantasy, I'm investing in the Chiefs like crazy. I want Rashee Rice now. I want Worthy. I want all those guys.
Yeah, it looks like Rice is not going to get suspended or anything. I love the addition of Worthy. I think it's going to open some things up, if not for him, but open other things up underneath a little bit. And it's not like you can't say, okay, Hollywood Brown's hurt. You got a rookie wide receiver that might be starting.
They got Kelsey and Mahomes, and they'll be all right.
It's better already than it was last year, even with a hurt Hollywood Brown, I think, at wide receiver. So that can't be it. Rookie left tackle protecting the most important asset in the league in Patrick Mahomes. So Kingsley Suamataia, maybe that's your pitfall. Does he miss a block and it gets Patrick Mahomes hurt? You know, that's
what help him though. You know,
I'm not worried about them developing another corner after L'Jarius Sneed leaving in free agency either.
No.
I mean, I trust in Steve Spagnuolo about as much as I trust in any coach in the NFL right now.
Yeah. I mean, they're maybe the best coach team with the best quarterback and plenty of star power. And I don't know what the odds are for them to win the West, but that's the easiest pick of all, you know?
Yeah. It's too easy, and you're not allowed to go back to back to back. That's the pitfall. What's going to happen? I'm not sure, but it's not allowed to happen in the NFL. You know, they're leaning on a couple of highly drafted rookies, but I like both those guys.
I really like what they did in the offseason.
Not much of a pitfall either.
Yeah.
Las Vegas Raiders, a little bit easier a little bit easier to find some pitfalls here with the Las Vegas Raiders, who have named Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback this year. Dual tight ends. I want to see an offense that just features tight ends, like lean in,
like old school New England.
I mean, obviously, you got Devontae Adams too. I mean, there's some Brock Bowers, Devontae Adams. You got your second round, and we got 2 top 50 tight ends in back-to-back years there. Zamir White, I like him in year 2 for this Raiders offense. I don't know if I love the offensive line. You got some, some players who
the right side's pretty rough.
Yeah, I mean, I like Dylan Parham's a good player.
He's okay.
Howard Johnson, if he, is healthy and on the field, and the guy that you hope you drafted high in the second round of 2024, Colton Miller's a good player on the left side when he's healthy too. So, the offense could be okay, and Gardner Minshew is a pro, if nothing else.
Yeah, I have a hard time. Everything we just said about coach and quarterback for Kansas City, this is polar opposite to me. And I'm not even sure if he's a good coach or not. I just don't know that he's – it's funny. It just so happens today, you told people we're recording on Thursday, ESPN released their coaching ranks. Kansas City was 1. The Raiders were 32. Now, does that mean that Antonio Pierce is a terrible coach? He's just unproven. Luke Getsy, who I know from Pitt, had a rough go of it. Patrick Graham is fine, but like it doesn't inspire confidence
too. So you have Antonio Pierce, and he's not calling the plays, and then you have an offensive coordinator that felt like he probably couldn't get any of the other 31 jobs in the NFL, and so it's not just like, oh, Antonio Pierce, he's 32. It's the entire staff, and like, what's this going to end up looking like? And it's hard to envision this team really exceeding the expectations that maybe. Not our expectations, because I think ours are low, but there's probably Raiders fans that have high expectations. They
definitely
might,
are. I remember they killed me for saying their defense is bad. And I mean, I think it's a little better than I gave it credit for, but I don't think the back seven's particularly inspiring. I mean, Robert Spillane's like an every down player for you. That's not ideal. I know he played okay. I don't think their running game's going to be great. The people touching the ball, again, I mean, Zamir White, Alexander Madison, Gardner Minshew. I mean, do you think Devontae Adams will finish this season as a Raider? I think he will not.
I think he will, because it's just more likely that players will.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just playing the odds that it's more unlikely to be traded than not.
Of course. Right.
But it feels like 50-50, which is pretty high already for Devontae Adams, and a team might come calling. And if you're the Raiders midseason, but hey, when they haven't been terrible since Antonio Pierce took over.
No.
So there's enough talent on offense. And if Pierce has the defense playing like they played at the end of last year, and, Max Crosby obviously is a star there and can really help guys on the back end. And, there's enough players who are like, okay, we have some hope here. We got some talent that is potentially develops into something that, I don't know. It's hard for me. I think they're bad, but maybe they can exceed my expectations. I think there's some Raiders fans that always come at us and they're like, oh, this and this is going to be good, and you guys are underrating this and that. Like, I think those fans are going to be disappointed.
Yeah, if I were to do power ranks, they would be 27 or 28 or something like that. And I think they have the worst quarterback situation in the league, and coach is unproven.
Yeah, but Antonio Pierce, man, all he's done is win more games than I expected since he took.
Yeah,
he could continue that, and maybe he's just that dude.
I'm open to that. They were plucky last year with him.
Yep. Jim Harbaugh. Speaking of plucky, nobody's pluckier than Jim Harbaugh. He brings back his old offensive coordinator from his NFL days in Greg Roman, and Jesse Minter is the defensive coordinator there now for an already banged up quarterback, Justin Herbert, which is probably the big pitfall.
That's some good news today, though. I guess he's been out there in an 11 on 11s. I mean, he's getting back in the swing of things, I think.
He's going to start the season. Is it going to him all year with the plantar fasciitis or plantar fascia, right? Is that the injury on his foot? So, look, it was a team that has kind of redone some things, but if you have a star quarterback and you're coached really well, and you've got Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, if those guys are healthy and playing well, and you have a star in your secondary, and you do have some talent at multiple levels of your team on both sides of the ball, I think maybe we're kind of burying the Chargers too soon. So I'm picking the Chargers over the Raiders. Let's put it that way.
I think I am too, but when we do over-under win totals, one of my favorite bets is Chargers under, because I think the general public is expecting Harbaugh to just magically take this team to the next level. And I'm probably one of my Chargers fans have put it, one of my favorite bets a year from now, I bet, is Chargers over. I just think it's going to take it and more than one offseason to get this team where they need it to be. I mean, I have confidence in the O-line. I adore the quarterback. But I frankly think their skill position players are last in the league. You know, I mean, Josh Palmer, Ladd McConkey, Gus Edwards, Will Dissly. I mean, like, those are the names that are going to be catching footballs this year. That's not ideal. And then I can't stress this enough. I mean, for a team that wants to be physical and win in the trenches and be strong up the middle, their defense is really bad in that regard. Like, these are the D line, the true 300-pounders are like Morgan Fox, Poona Ford, Atidio Ogbania. I killed his name, but like, there's no talent up the middle. And then they're off the ball linebackers. Maybe Junior Colson's fine, but Dalen Henney, Denzel Perryman, like right up the middle of their defense. I think, you know, Harbaugh wants to run the ball. That's great. But I could just see other teams just gouging them up the middle, and Herbert's on the sidelines, and you're not winning time of possession and things like that.
Junior Colson better become Patrick Willis pretty quick, because when
Junior
I think of him,
Seau,
how quickly that 2011 49ers team was great almost immediately with the same talent that they had basically the year before. Jim Harbaugh doesn't have Justin Smith and Patrick Willis,
right,
and Aldon Smith on this team to take that immediate leap. And so I'm interested, but I'm skeptical as well. You mentioned Frank Gore. There's no Frank Gore touching the ball. You know, like that kind of thing is what worries me. Justin Herbert and Harbaugh, is that enough? Good coach, good quarterback. We talk about it all the time. That might be enough. 8.5 wins is the over.
Good start.
Yeah. You're going under the 8.5?
Yeah. I'm not even sure I'm going to pick them for second in the division, but maybe. It's a pretty bad division. I won't pick them as a playoff contender, though.
That is the Pitfalls in the AFC West. That is Brugler's top 50. And let us know what you think about the Pitfalls. What are your pitfalls for the teams in the AFC West? At BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Football, Locked On Dynasty Football. Get those draft strategies ready to win your leagues this season. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Matt and I back next time right here. Peacock and Williamson.